Actually, I am hard at work here. I know it doesn't look like it, but I am a herring caller. My job is to sit here and watch. And when I see a flock of gulls flying low over the water, I know that there's a shoal of herring out there. So I shout out the word herring to the villagers, and they rush out of their houses and jump in their boats and go and catch them. But it can take quite a while. What are they collecting?
Well, they're actually collecting the stones off the field. The crop's been sown, it's winter wheat, so it stands about 2 or 3 inches above the actual stone now. And there's one thing with this land, it almost grows stone. They're actually getting them out off the soil to hopefully improve the soil and actually get the stones out of the way of the harvesting machines with moving blades, which are expensive machines. And so we're using a cheap form of labour here to actually get this potential hazard out of the way.
And what happens to the stones?
Well, they'll go off into the cart, and we can utilise those for making trackways and or pathways just around and about, and maybe even use them on the parish roads.
What was life like for these kids?
Well, it wouldn't have been all nice and sunny like today. It would have been cold, hard, real drudgery. They'd have been out here all weathers, picking away, and of course I've got gloves and they don't have the luxury of that. Pretty tough, grim conditions. And of course at the end of the day, after a long 10, 12 hours work, getting home to a small, damp, crowded little house, large families, not much to eat, probably with just a little bit of bread and cheese. So all in all, pretty grim.
Life was really very tough for Victorian children. Victorian kids were skinny and undernourished. Many were beaten, and they were drugged to ease their pain so that they could work even longer hours. When Parliament outlawed the use of child labour in 1869, no one really seemed to take any notice. Herring calling was a bit like watching paint dry without the thrill. People in Victorian Britain did what they could to earn a living. No job was too small. And taking money from fishermen to alert them to the chance of a catch was one way of earning something. Oh, and it was a bit cold on the bum. Jobs like these may have been boring or messy or just plain hard, but they were nothing like facing one of mankind's creepiest and oldest enemies, the rat. Welcome to the grim world of the Victorian rat catcher. Rats were rampant in Victorian times. In overcrowded towns, washing and toilet facilities were very poor. Disease was rife, filth was commonplace. In one single building in London, a rat catcher caught 700 rats. Everyone needed a rat catcher, and this was the most famous of them. Jack Black, rat catcher to Queen Victoria. Rat catching was a big business. There was money to be made.
Well, rats were very saleable. He could catch rats and sell them to publicans who were running rat pits in their pubs, a secret, illegal occupation.
What was a rat pit?
A rat pit is where they pitched the rats against dogs, probably terriers, and they had a fight and people betted on them.
That can't have been much of a market, can it?
Well, one publican in Enfield was buying 500 rats a week. That's 26,000 a year at threepence a head, so you can work it out for yourself.
Presumably they had rat poison in those days, though.
Yes, rat catchers used to make their own poisons. Secret recipe, here's an example. Now, a rat catcher would go to a marketplace with his poison to sell to the general public, because rats were such a problem then as they are now. And he might have a cage with many, many rats in, and to demonstrate the efficacy of his poison, he'd take a live rat out of his cage, give it the poison, and there you go.
Killing rats using poison was easy. What made this one of the worst jobs of the age was when they had to catch them live. They did it by hand. Rat catchers attracted the rats by rubbing a mixture of sweet-smelling oils on their hands. This worked, but rats bite. A lot. Rat catchers often caught terrible infections. You'd need to be an idiot to put your hand blindly in a hole after a rat, wouldn't you? Smell like an old-fashioned boiled sweet. I think those rats are going to love that. The problem is, half the time, you don't know whether you can hear something rustling or whether it's just You leaning on the... You hear that? That is definitely something live. Seemed like a good idea at the time, but quite honestly, when you just stick your defenceless hand in here and you've no idea, I don't think there's anything here, what's going to be on the other end, it is a little bit scary. There's been no noise in here at all for the last 2 or 3 minutes. That's my hand, not a rat. Oh, I've got something. I've got something furry, definitely. And it's wiggling, it's horrible. I don't know, I actually don't want to hurt it, but I suppose that wasn't really the issue for... Oh, there it is. There it is. Oh! I thought it was going to bite me then.
So what do you think now, Tony?
Well, it's kind of cute, isn't it? But it's also fairly disgusting. I don't think I would like to do this every day.
Shall I take it?
Yeah. Ugh. Herring! I think they're all asleep. Top of virtually everyone's list of worst jobs of the Victorian era has got to be child chimney sweep. But according to Dick Van Dyke, a sweep is as lucky can be. Was it really such a bad job? Sending little boys up chimneys was actually made illegal in 1840. 24 years later, the Act had to be strengthened because people just ignored it. Leslie, did they really put little children as young as Daniel up the chimney?
I'm afraid they did. Children even younger than Daniel. I know that Daniel's 8 and children of 6 and 7 were sent up the chimneys.
Why? Why didn't they just shove big brushes up?
And there were lots of very poor children around who'd got stunted growth from bad nutrition, and they were very, very slim, and they were very, very agile and could handle a little brush like that superbly for sweeping down the soot.
Right, you scruffy little urchin, get up that chimney. Leslie, how much did they pay these kids?
Well, they didn't pay them anything at all, actually. Kids of about 6 and 7, often orphans or kids looked after by the parish, they'd apprentice them to a master sweep. And the idea was the master sweep would care for them, feed them, clothe them, give them a living, until such time as they were too big to go up the chimney. The only problem is, of course, the master sweeps were out to make as much money as they could themselves. So the kids didn't get paid. They get very meagre food. Often that meant that they got stunted growth. They were very slim.
Daniel?
Yeah,
You all right in there? You're not stuck, are you?
just a little bit.
What are you doing?
I'm cleaning.
What was it like up there in the chimney?
Very tight fitting. I mean, often on a chimney like this, you'd have your main chimney, but you'd have flues going off from the main chimney. So very, very narrow areas that they had to climb in.
Suppose you were in there for about 3 hours and there was loads of chimney soot and stuff.